Battlefield medicine, the stakes are just unbelievably high. We're talking about a world where decisions made in a split second literally determine who lives and who dies. So today, we're going to dive into the brutal but necessary logic that medics use to save as many lives as possible when every single second counts.
Just try to put yourself in this scene for a second. There's smoke everywhere, it's complete chaos, and you have way more casualties than you have hands to treat. This is the raw reality of what they call a mass casualty event on the battlefield. It's an environment so overwhelming that all the normal rules of medicine, they just go right out the window.
So that brings us to probably the most difficult question a human being can ever face. With almost no time and very limited resources, who do you help first? Who has to wait? And who is already beyond saving? There's no simple answer, and it is definitely not easy. To even start to wrap our heads around that question, you have to understand something absolutely fundamental. The injuries that medics see in combat are a whole different world from what a doctor sees in a city emergency room. Modern weapons, they are designed to cause the maximum amount of damage possible. And that changes everything.
Right, so because you're dealing with this completely unique environment and these just devastating types of injuries, battlefield medicine can't just follow the textbook from civilian life. It demands a totally different approach, a different mindset. Let's get into it. So what's the actual goal here? What is the mission? Well, the goals of combat surgery are incredibly pragmatic, they are mission-focused, and honestly, they might just surprise you with their cold, hard logic. Okay, now this is what's really fascinating. Just look at the order of priority here. The number one goal isn't just save lives. It's to return the greatest number of soldiers back to the fight. Then comes saving life, then limb, and then eyesight. It's a really stark reminder that in a war zone, the bigger mission is what dictates every single medical priority. And to hit those goals, they follow 4 core principles. First, and this is the most critical step, you have to establish priorities of care. Second, you focus on the actual wound, the damage itself, not what caused it. Third, you've got to be super aggressive about preventing infection, which is a massive risk out in the field. And finally, you do whatever you can to minimize any long-term disability. And that first principle, establishing priorities, well, that is so crucial, it gets its own entire system. It's called triage, and it's the tool that medics use to bring some semblance of order to the absolute unmanageable chaos of a mass casualty situation. So what exactly is triage? At its heart, it's the dynamic process of sorting casualties. And that word dynamic is so important here because a patient's condition can change in an instant, so they are constantly being reevaluated. The whole point is to figure out who gets treated first and who gets evacuated first. The system is often color-coded, which makes things really clear in a chaotic scene. First up, you've got red. This is priority 1, immediate. These are the most critical casualties who actually have a chance to survive, but only if they get advanced medical care, like right now or at least within the hour. Next up is yellow. This is priority 2, delayed. These folks are in stable condition. They absolutely need medical help, don't get me wrong, but they can wait a little bit. Their evacuation gets delayed until every single immediate casualty is taken care of. And then you have green. That's priority 3, minor. You'll often hear these casualties called the walking wounded. They might just need some basic first aid. They're the last to be evacuated, and all the while, medics are keeping an eye on them just in case their condition gets worse. And finally, there's the black category, deceased. This is for casualties who show no signs of life, even after a medic has tried a basic life-saving step like opening their airway. In the brutal math of the battlefield, no more resources can be spent here. It's a grim reality. Okay, so we've got the system down. We understand triage, but what kind of injuries are these medics actually sorting through? You really have to get a handle on what's causing the trauma to understand the sheer scale of the challenge they're up against. Yeah, this chart, it tells a really powerful story. You've got IEDs, shrapnel, and other explosions way out in front as the cause of most injuries. Gunshot wounds are definitely a factor, but explosives, they are without a doubt the dominant threat on today's battlefield. So what happens in an explosion? Well, at its most basic level, it's just a super fast chemical reaction, and it instantly creates 2 main ways to injure someone: a powerful, invisible shockwave, the blast wave, and fragments, which are basically just pieces of the device and anything else nearby, all flying at insane speeds.
And this is what makes it so incredibly devastating. A single explosion doesn't just cause one type of injury. It can create this horrible combination of blast injuries from the shockwave, ballistic injuries from all those flying fragments, and thermal injuries from the intense heat, all in one person, all at the same time.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. When you look at this entire system, the goals, the principles, the triage categories, a very clear, if very difficult, logic starts to emerge. It's all about a kind of calculated compassion in the middle of unimaginable chaos.
I mean, the source material puts it bluntly. War is a mass casualty situation. That's not a rare event. It's the starting assumption. And because of that, triage isn't just a helpful idea. It is an absolutely essential, non-negotiable part of military surgery.
And that brings us to what is probably the hardest truth in all of this. The goal? It's not to save every single life. It can't be. If you tried to do that, you would stretch your resources so thin that you'd end up losing even more people who might have been saved. So the whole philosophy boils down to this one crucial point. It is about doing the greatest good for the greatest number of people, using only the resources you have at that exact moment. It's about maximizing survival for the entire group, not just focusing on one person. And that leaves us with a really profound final thought. We're talking about a world where compassion has to be guided by cold, hard logic. Because on the battlefield, it's often the absolute hardest decisions that end up saving the most lives.